Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, N. Austin, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. Yes, I am excited again, and I continue to be excited because this year we have over 50 participants, maybe close to 60 people that is on here in 2019, being part of the movement to support small businesses and authors and to share their information with you. And we have another amazing female sports entrepreneur out here all the way from Seattle, Washington, that is going to be talking about her organization and what she's doing as far as sports. And I cannot wait to talk to her in this interview today. So I want you to like, share, and vote for your favorite because we have 7 BMWC awards that we are giving out this year. So make sure you vote for your favorite, and also make sure you check out all of the other podcasts that we have going on in this season. For 8 weeks, you have all of these different dynamic people from all over the country and all over the world that is listening in, and we want you to be part of the movement. Just in case you didn't know, the BMWC podcast is a platform that unifies career and business industry trends, and we share that information with you so that you can make an informed decision about your career. And make sure that you also get in contact with some of the people that are on here to share the information. If they align with what you do, please click on their contact and please reach out to them. And more importantly, please patron a business or buy a book. Before we get into our podcast today, I would like to take a moment to thank our corporate sponsors who are My Financial Home, Evangelism Radio, JNF Enterprises, Sears Consulting, Autism Families Rock, Awakening to Love, Eli Natoli, Kimberly McLemore, True Synergy, and Platinum Financial Services, along with our other BMWC participants who is helping to make this season a huge success. So, as I stated at the top of the interview, we have another dynamic person who's an entrepreneur and sports guru. Her name is Sarah Wolfler, and she is a chief executive officer and founder of Girl Boss Sports, which is a Seattle based soccer coaching company that provides lessons for girls by women. Girl Boss Sports is also working to increase the number of female sports coaches while also providing a quality soccer experience for female athletes in their area and with all the female role models. Sarah is also a professional tackle football player and is working on a book also centered around women in leadership and sports. And so, in addition to that, I want you guys to continue reading her bio because she has some amazing information as we talk to Sarah. Hey, Sarah.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
No problem, no problem. So, hey, you are doing some amazing things out there in soccer. So, give everybody a little history about where you're from originally and, what was your interest growing up before you got into soccer and sports?
Yeah, so I was raised in Oregon, and actually, it's funny that you say that because really soccer has been something that's been the constant in my life. I started playing soccer when I was only 4 years old. So that's really been sports, soccer, track, and maybe a few others here and there have really been a primary focus of my whole life since the age of 4. I also began coaching soccer at the age of 14. That was my first job ever, and I was coaching 2-year-olds, which was definitely an experience. And when I was 18, I decided that I wanted to go and play soccer somewhere warm. And the Pacific Northwest has a lot of great things about it, but the winters are a little bit rough for me. And so I moved to Miami, Florida, and I ended up playing soccer over there.
Wow. So, what was it about soccer that you really loved the best when you were younger? I know that it could be fun, but then, as you grew older, what did you discover about yourself that you really loved about soccer, even at a very young age?
Yeah, I am definitely a very competitive person. And that's, again, been something throughout my whole life, not just in sports, but also in academics. And then I don't just mean competitive against other people, but also against myself as well. And I think soccer was a big part of, allowing me to have a good, safe outlet for all of those things. I learned things like how to set and accomplish goals. With being an athlete, it takes a lot of hard work and dedication and consistency to achieve your goals. For example, right now, like you said, I'm a tackle football player at the Seattle Majestics. And I'm, again, now going through the same things that I went through when I was preparing for college soccer and even at younger ages. Going to the gym, lifting weights, eating right, getting enough sleep, making sure I'm staying hydrated. All of those different components have really related to setting and achieving goals. And I've seen a lot of parallels in what I do in the workplace or just in my overall life in general. And I think sports help me to be able to do that across the board.
Okay, fabulous. So you're also a licensed independent clinical social worker as well. When did this all come into play as you were growing up and maybe going to college?
Yeah, so that was social work was actually my major in college. So I have my bachelor's and master's both in social work, and that's because really I have a heart, and I have a heart for serving the most vulnerable and marginalized individuals. And so I've done a lot of different work because that was my primary career up until I founded Girl Boss Sports. And so I worked with children and families. I've also worked with adults experiencing homelessness here in Seattle, Washington, and that all just came about because of my compassion and just really the desire to serve. And then, Girl Boss Sports came about after that, and I still feel like I'm able to use my social work, maybe not my actual degree in its most, truest form, but I've been able to use a lot of the skills I learned in social work in what I'm doing now and leading this company. Things like communication skills and understanding of human development and social skills, personality development. All of these things have helped me become a better soccer coach and have helped me become a better leader as well.
Okay. So where in your area of Seattle and growing up to become a soccer coach and doing some of the amazing things you're doing with the Seattle Majestics, um, did you find it difficult for women to be getting into soccer because we see a lot of this on TV, but we don't know the backstory. And I'm only speaking to this point because I'm always looking for people who are on the podcast to share information about their experience, whether good or bad, for those who might be looking into going into soccer or maybe haven't even thought that they could be a soccer coach or something like that. They're coming out of high school, they may be listening to you. What's some of the tips that you could share with someone based on your experience being in a soccer field?
Yeah, so I have a lot of thoughts about that. One of them that really made me think of when you were talking just now was about one of the kind of the building blocks that led to me creating Girl Boss Sports was, some various experiences I had both as an athlete and as a coach in this industry, because it is a very male-dominated industry. For example, I can think of one time when I was an athlete, a soccer player, and in a very competitive environment, and I had this soccer coach. And I've had a lot of male soccer coaches who have been great and wonderful and amazing human beings and coaches. But this person I don't think should ever coach women or girls again. But we were having a conversation, and I still remember we started out about 6 feet away from each other. And by the end of that conversation, he was an inch from my face, tons of expletives being shouted my direction, and spittle. I still remember the spittle flying everywhere. And it was just
Oh,
this really
no.
traumatic, yeah, it was a
Mhm.
super traumatic experience for me. And then as
Mhm.
soon as I turned around and walked away, I just immediately started bawling. And then he kicked me out of practice. And that moment has just stuck with me of, nobody should ever be treated like that. But definitely, you're not going to be able to talk to me or many other girls or women and expect for us to have a good result from that. I'm not going to want to go onto the
Mhm.
soccer field after that and give my best
Mhm.
effort. Uh,
And so yeah, you kind of created Girl Boss Sports, and so it was like you're not going to be the boss of me, right? So you started the Girl Boss Sports, and what was your the impact of you starting your organization? And let's talk about a little bit of what you provide there.
Yeah, it's been huge. I've had a ton of people reach out with a lot of interest in what I'm doing. We have, a lot of clients now. We're starting to build that up. It got to the point where I was able to hire several other coaches, which again is the second big goal of Girl Boss Sports, is to increase the number of female sports coaches. Just a quick statistic, here in the United States, only 21% of soccer coaches are women. And so that's something that I really want to change. And then when you look at it
Mhm.
globally, it's only 7% are women. And so that is
Oh,
definitely one of the
wow.
things at Girl Boss Sports I'm really excited about and proud of, is that I've just now hired 7 women, and I'm training them, supporting them, helping them become soccer coaches, or some of them have already been soccer coaches, and I've created an environment that we can, women supporting women, uplift one another, ideas share with each other, and just see that there are more of us out there, because each and every one of them that I've interviewed had similar stories and experiences like I just shared with you. And so we just
Wow.
really want to create this environment that can change
Mhm.
this whole sports industry.
Okay. And so what are some of the activities in addition to, I know you're gathering and talking about soccer, but what's some of the activities that you engage in with your organization that also fosters relationships with women and tying it all back to soccer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, with every single service that we provide, which I can dive into in a second, we focus on three main areas. One of them is obviously the soccer skill development, the how to soccer, shooting, passing, dribbling. And that's one area. Our second area is what your body needs to be able to do to be able to play soccer. So that's things like speed and agility and balance and just like what your body has to be able to do. The third one is my favorite and I think the most important, and that's the mentality piece that to be basically a champion. But that doesn't just mean being a champion on the field, it also means off the field as well. So we focus on confidence and communication and resilience and teamwork and leadership and all of these things that had such an impact on my own life growing up in
Mhm.
sports. And now
Mhm.
we're just bringing it to another degree. And this is another area I feel like I've really been able to push all of my social work background into as well.
Mhm.
And so those are kind of the three main focal points for everything that we do. But we offer
Wow.
private lessons, we offer
Mhm.
clinics, we're working on a summer camp, looking at partnering with some other schools and clubs in the area to
Mhm.
not just increase our own women sports coaches, but also working with every single one of them to have more women sports coaches and to retain more female athletes in sports because too many of them are dropping out.
Yeah, it sounds like you're building a lot of self-confidence too, and also focusing on health and wellness as well. If I want to add those two to your list, because if when I was listening to you riddle off, you know, all of the different attributes that you need to have in order to even be a soccer coach or even just to play soccer, I'm looking at myself like I need some soccer lessons. I need some soccer lessons because I think that soccer lessons is going to make me eat right. It's going to make me feel good. It's going to make me feel like I'm doing something that's fulfilling. It's also going to help me move around and, like you said, to be more resilient. And a lot of us, we go to our 9 to 5 and we don't do any of those things that you just said. We want to engage in those things, but we don't do any of those things. And it just sounds like something fun and engaging that anyone will be happy to engage in because you also talked about leadership and all of those things that will empower a female to do something out of their comfort zone. So I really applaud you for that. Are there any
Yeah.
other like activities that either you or your organization is getting into these days in terms of soccer and women leadership?
Yeah, so you actually did bring up a great point about kind of the women aspect. So most often we work with girls, 2 to 18 plus, but we also, one of my favorite clients is actually when we serve women. So women like you who maybe have never played soccer before or played a year or two growing up now want to come learn the game, but then also all of the other things that you mentioned. So I actually really love that piece as well. And it's something that we're trying to build up. I actually have a soccer class coming up soon for adult women, and it's going to be kind of the next branch that we're going into. But going back to what your question is, I'm also looking at partnering with several organizations in the Seattle community right now. And so none of those are official yet, so I probably can't say any names, but I still have my social work heart, and I don't want to contribute to only having sports available to those who are wealthy. And so I'm also looking at ways to make sure that we're serving anybody and everybody who wants to play the sport of soccer. And so I think there's going to be a lot of exciting things coming our way and to the greater Seattle area pretty soon.
Okay, fantastic. Now, again, you play for the game. Do you have any games coming up that people may want to come and check out for the Seattle Majestics? What's going on with that team, and how did you even get into the Seattle Majestics?
Yeah. So there's
Mhm.
the Seattle Majestics. I saw them at a parade a couple years back, and at that point, I was just wow. There's actually women who play football. I had no idea up until that point, and I really wanted to try out. This was probably 2 years ago, but I chickened out, if I'm being perfectly honest with myself. And I also wasn't in what I thought was good enough shape to
Mhm.
try out. And so this year, or I guess 2018,
Mhm.
I saw the tryout information 2 months in advance, and I figured that
Mhm.
was enough time for me to get myself to the gym and start working on my goals, like my fitness goals, to make sure I
Mhm.
didn't go into tryouts not prepared. Who I am as a human is someone who just likes to be as prepared as possible and who wants to give my best foot forward in whatever I'm doing. And
Mhm.
so that's kind of how I found out about the Seattle Majestics. and I made the team, which is really exciting. So I'm a rookie this year. I've never played football before, so I'm definitely stepping outside my comfort zone right now, and learning to tackle and learning all of the rules of the game because I haven't really
Mhm.
watched it too much before either. And so
Mhm.
it's a ton of studying. The playbooks are intense. I didn't
Mhm.
realize just how much of a mental game football was until I'm actually in it now and seeing all of
Right.
the plays and the different lines and where they go and then what that concept means and the why behind it. But I love it. Like every time I go to
Oh
practice
my
and I learn
goodness.
more, yeah,
Mhm.
I just fall in love with the sport.
Right.
So it's
And you
been
guys have to really learn how to tackle so that you're not, getting hurt and things like that in the game.
exactly. That's also
Yeah.
really fun and it's a socially acceptable way of getting some of your aggression out. And so I also really like
Mhm.
that aspect too.
Nice. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You have so much stuff going on as I'm reading your bio here, and I'm looking here that WNFC has recently sponsored you in the Adidas She Breaks Barriers campaign. Talk a little bit about that. How did you land on that? Did they just happen to see you do something really like spectacular and then they just kind of found you? Or, how did you get sponsored by Adidas?
So that's the Women's National Football Conference was the one that was
Yeah.
sponsored by Adidas, and the
Yeah.
Seattle Majestics are one of the teams in the WNFC. And
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah, it's a huge partnership. Riddell also recently partnered with the WNFC, and a few other people are kind of stepping up to it right now. I think there's
Mm-hmm.
this for women in sports in 2019. It's going to be a huge year, not just for football, but pretty much across the board. Because if you're paying attention to the news right now, you've seen that the U.S. women's national team just filed a lawsuit in regards to equal pay. So there's a lot of things happening for women in the sports world, and I think it's going to be a year for sponsors to get on board and realize that this is
Mm-hmm.
not just a smart and ethical move, but it's
Mm-hmm.
also a good business move to start funding women's sports more and paying attention to it and showing it live on TV. WNFC actually just partnered with I think it's Uscreen, and so you can
Mm-hmm.
see all of our games live. If you want to just go
Nice.
to WNFCfootball.com, you can find out more information about that. And so there's
Awesome.
definitely a lot of things coming our way this year.
Wow, it sounds fabulous. So outside of soccer, because I think we talked about soccer a whole lot. So outside of that, being Sarah the woman, what do you like to do for fun outside of all of that?
I am a huge reader, and it's I'm going to sound like a big nerd right now, but my favorite genre of books is leadership and productivity and
Mhm.
women in the workplace. So kind of all of like these have been passions of mine for years now. And I basically with Girl Boss Sports, I was able to find a way to put all of my favorite passions into one company. But I still really just love reading books about that and learning and growing, listening to podcasts. I also really like just going for a long run and being in nature when it's nice weather outside, that is. But being in
Mhm.
nature and listening to music and just kind of, it really centers me to do things like that as well.
Nice, absolutely. And so I have a final question for you because this has definitely been so great listening to your background about soccer. I don't hear much about soccer other than watching games. So for me, it is really refreshing to hear that a person can play soccer and really expand on that and build something and grow something from it. And I want to encourage you to do that. So my last question for you is, personally and professionally, what do you need to thrive and keep doing what you're doing? What do you need?
For me, I definitely need to always be focusing on my self care. And I think that knowledge comes from my, past career in social work too. We have this saying that says it's something like you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's something that really sticks with me. If I want to serve others in whatever way that is for me, and right now that's through Girl Boss Sports and, women in sports and everything else I've been discussing, then I have to be taking care of myself first. And the most important ones for me involve sleep. I have to really get 7 plus, ideally 8 plus hours per night. And that means I usually have to go to bed early. I have to really set myself up for success the night before for the following day. So that includes,
Mhm.
getting my coffee maker set, getting my
Yeah, I
gym
love
outfit
that.
ready. Yeah, just really taking away every possible reason why I
Mhm.
would say no to getting up in the morning, taking away all
Mhm.
of those reasons the night before, which means there's a greater likelihood that I'll actually make it to the gym and do the workout that I need to do, or
Mhm.
get up and read, or get up and do my work or whatever it is I need to do that day. So just
Mhm.
really focusing on my self-care, on my relationships, on
Mhm.
just on Sarah in general is something that's really important to me.
You know, you made a catchphrase that I really love. You could and you could put that like on a T-shirt. Set yourself up for the next day. I love that how you said that because a lot of us don't do that, and I want people to hear what you're really saying is that before you even go out there for the next day, you already have prepared the day before because you feel it is important to you, and I really am inspired by just the fact that you have that kind of discipline and dedication to yourself to make sure that you are the best you that you can be to do your sports and to do the tackling and then the leadership and all the empowerment of the women and all that type of stuff. And I think it's fabulous and definitely want to have people promote and share more of this stuff to their followers about what you're doing because what you're doing is definitely something that is needed everywhere, not just for the coaches, but just getting women to come out of their comfort zone and to really expand on their abilities to for self-care. So definitely love hearing all of that. And I want people to like, share, and vote for you so they can go out there and share this information and also reach out to you. Click on your links down below, click on girlboss.com or whatever the URL you have there and come out and see a game or maybe even get with you to come out to a workshop. And so with that, I want to thank you, Sarah, for being on the podcast and sharing your story with everyone. And I wish you so much luck in everything that you're doing.
Thank you so much. It was really a pleasure talking to you today.
Awesome.